Morning.
Morning. Here we go. Episode 5, maybe 6, not sure. After a couple of episodes have been deleted, we're figuring out the social media game. Don't want to be, canceled
Yeah,
out here.
yeah.
Just as much as we're trying to figure out the hockey development world here at Bob and Frank. Um, what are we going to talk about today? I guess if we are trying to figure out hockey development, we have to cut the clutter. So I think for today's episode, we're going to go top 10 scams in hockey development. And we're not going to be tagging anyone along, going from 10 to 9 to 8. See you next episode. We're going to come off the top ropes. Number 1 scam in hockey development, punch turns.
I love
Punch
it.
turns. What are we doing out here? We're out here spending hours and hours perfecting the perfect outside edge blade contact to punch turn, be efficient, posture, everything. And then we just got these guys with Graf 737s, with Bowers with blue tucks, with Bowers Supreme 1000s, none of this hyperlight stuff. We got these guys in the 70s, 80s, 90s, which we're about to show, ripping perfect punch turns.
Unbelievable.
And first thing I want to talk about is, was Walter Gretzky out on the pond ripping punch, punch, punch? Or do you think Wayno just figured it out?
I figured it out. I don't get me wrong. Maybe Walter was out there hitting him with the punch, punch, but I doubt it. I doubt it.
Um, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Before we continue with the whole punch turns are scams, we can't be sitting here. I'm not gonna say that I was not going out to an opening session Tuesday night last week. First impression, what do you know, 10, 15 minutes into the session, I'm ripping punch turns up and down the half wall, putting
Yep.
on a show.
Yep.
Um, I'd also be lying if I didn't tell you, just did a punch turn clinic. That one wasn't a full punch turn clinic, but just a couple weeks ago, we're going to show some footage from it. Full punch turn progression. We are scam artists.
There's. Is it getting hot in here? Yeah. There's no doubt. No doubt. We are shady characters in the skills coaching business. A business that didn't exist when Wayno and Walter figured out how to punch.
Let's get Wayno on the pod here.
Yeah, I think we should. We'll start with Wayno. All right.
So, punch turns, decelerating with the outside edge, making a turn and carrying your momentum forwards.
Here we
Wayno,
go.
punch. Incredible.
What
Perfect
a clip.
technique. Who taught him that?
What a clip that was. Are you
Was
kidding
Wayno
me?
on social media watching the punch turn clinics from 1,000 skill coaches?
I think so. Let's see that again.
I
Full
think it was
stride.
Walt. Walt is.
Oh,
I can't imagine Walt being out in the
unbelievable.
pond.
Wayno. Let's get another one here.
Yeah, that was maybe 79 right there. 1979. Let's get something. You know what? Actually, Mario playing in the queue here is our next clip. What year was Mario Lemieux rocking these graphs with tongues hanging out, just ripping a little
Oh,
a little pivot, little punch, little punch, little punch.
unbelievable.
Incredible. With these skates, just ripping these punch and pullbacks. Who do you think was out in Quebec teaching punch turns?
I think maybe Maurice Richard had a brief stint as 50, 60-year-old. He'd probably be 70 by that time.
Yeah, I could see the man.
Instructor.
Maurice Richard would have made a killing in skills coaching after
Oh,
just doing the 2-to-1 hands, burning them wide.
maybe the 2-to-1 head right off the top. You know what I mean? Oh,
Okay,
what a
what else do
player.
we got? We got Captain Keith
Yes, we have
skating the
Captain
puck.
Keith.
Captain Keith Primo. Darius
And
Kasparaitis thought he was going to take it through the Zamboni door here,
what
but
did
he
he
comes
think? Oh.
incredible punch turn. And I just have a gut feeling that Philadelphia at the time did not have a
Ah,
European skills coach
I
ripping
love it.
punch turns at
I love it.
practice.
Do you think he ever did a session where he said, "Okay, if you see a defenseman pivot backwards to forwards, now's the time. Punch." Because
Yeah,
we're that
that's a good
that's a
point.
common thread in one of my sessions. But
Yeah.
do you think Keith ever heard of that?
Or do you think he was just an athlete? I don't know.
Definitely what a punch. 5 OT? Sounds made up.
Love that point you just made, though, that, like, yeah, you'll try to explain how you're
Mhm.
trying to time the guy's pivot and attack the space where he's coming from, as opposed to,
100%.
that angle he's taking going against attacking his heels. Yeah, you think somebody specifically taught him that, or do you think Captain Keith was, just born to win?
I don't know. I was on the ice, last week, and I was with a 2013 AAA player, great kid, and he's flying around, and he's working on one-on-ones with me, and we got a defenseman out there, um, and I said, "All right, like we did last week, if you see this guy cross over, it's time to go. It's time to make your cut.
Okay.
Take it left, take it right. When you see him mess around with his feet, it's time to go." First rep, he skates down the ice, and this defenseman was just born to make that backwards edge push adjustment, and he never crossed. And kid comes to me afterwards and goes,
What do I do?
"Grego, he never crossed. I can't believe it. Are they allowed to do that?" Like,
Yeah, you got to skate faster, son.
never felt more like a scammer than in that moment for sure. This'll work 100%.
uh, well, um, again, you can you can overcomplicate, you can really isolate, break down every single detail, but it is interesting to note that so many years behind us without skills coaches, without the technology of the skates, it's just a tight turn.
It's just a tight turn.
It's just a little 2 foot turn. Boom. You learn it when you're 8 years old. You got to practice it when you're 38 years old. Really good examples there of just some athletes executing punch turns with no detail, no background to their foundation and their fundamentals. They're just able to execute from, I got to think, playing on the pond,
Mhm,
competing at a high level,
mhm.
and just managing time and space, being athletes, being able to execute that skill.
Yeah, I've seen older players, 14, 15, 16 years old, come on the ice, and we work on some punch turns, and they're really grateful, and they say, "I've never really done this. This is awesome." And I've seen other players who it just comes naturally, but they also say, "Yeah, I've been doing this. I didn't know it was called a punch turn."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Say
So
that.
at the same time, when you isolate it like we do, you're able to show it to someone very young, 8, 9, 10 years old, and they definitely have never heard of it. And they definitely can improve through some progressions and learn the skill and be ahead of the game when other kids aren't doing it at their age. And at the same time, you can have the situation like I did the other week where 2013, I'm telling him as soon as he crosses over, hit him with the punch turn, and the defenseman never crosses over. Now I'm trying to force a certain move into it, and that's what kind of happens is when you're a skills coach and you're saying we're working on this, you erase the freedom to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And you're saying, like, working with some older players, like I've worked with some very high level players where you do an isolated punch turn drill and it seems very awkward. Whether it is that the fact that they're thinking about their feet now as opposed to just playing and making an athletic movement. Now they're it's like their nervous system is just disrupted and they're not comfortable doing it
Yeah.
on repeat or doing it in a repetitive pattern, as opposed to when they're just trying to deke somebody out or whatever other example or game application that you use a tight turn. Sometimes isolating it can make it a little bit awkward for certain athletes, certain players.
Yeah, it's like as soon as your buddy walks up to tee it off, you say, "Hey, do you inhale or exhale on the backswing?" All of a sudden, he's in a blender because he doesn't think about that stuff. He just
Yeah,
looks at the target and he swings, right? As soon as
yeah,
you make him think about it, you can almost be counterproductive. Um, at the same time, I remember doing some weight shifts a month or 2 ago with a 2006 born player, and couple of crossovers, weight shift, quick release, just an easy warm-up drill, and he went over there and he turned on 2 feet really beautifully and tight, and then he ripped it into the net, and he said, "That was supposed to be 1 foot, wasn't it?" And I said, "I don't care.
yeah.
That was beautiful.
Feels great.
Who cares you didn't do it on 1 foot?" Um, so I don't know. Sometimes I catch myself thinking, they didn't do it the way I wanted them to do it." But then other times, he still went from A to B to C, so why
Yeah,
am I worried about the particulars? That was a great move, puck on net. What else can you ask for?
yeah,
I always tell kids the best reps are the ones where you lose the puck and then you find it again, because 'cause they're thinking, let me do another rep, that wasn't good." No, no, that was the best rep right there, where you
yeah,
fumbled it, picked it up off your feet, and got the job done anyways. That was the best rep.
yeah. Just be an athlete.
Yeah,
At the same time, uh, I think we should talk about why, when I go out for like a first impression, I'm incorporating punch turns into my session, or
sure.
why, even when I'm working with players long term, I will dedicate an hour to the skill.
Well, one
Um,
one reason is we watched an NHL game last week together, and we picked out a punch turn multiple times. We just said, "Hey, let's look for punch turns." Remember that?
Yeah, and it was, within a couple shifts, and we've got 4 or 5 different examples. You are doing tight turns off the puck to transition. You're doing tight turns to escape away from checks. You're doing tight turns to set up dekes. Um, it happens all the time.
All the time.
So, one, you want your players to be prepared for something that they're going to do in their next game or even their next shift, you could argue. Two, working on tight turns is actually a great way to work on explosiveness, conditioning. It makes for a high tempo session. So, for a first impression, if you start incorporating some basic punch turn drills, um, you're going to be getting some high heart rates. You're going to be getting some, if you're executing properly, some hardworking kids
Yep,
and a good workout. So that's all good. And then at the same time, you can do some pretty cool skills with punch turns, whether it's
100%.
doing different fakes, different dekes out of it, different releases. Um, as much as you can make it a bag skate with it, you can make it technical. You can make it a bag skate, and you can do some fancy moves on top of it. Makes for a really good 50-minute session or hour and a half session to incorporate all those things, and then especially to put it into a competitive game where they're
Yes,
encouraged to use that, and then you actually pop quiz, what are the kids capable of doing. It's really cool to see that aspect of it, because if you don't have that and you're only isolating it, you might be putting a kid in a blender where they're trying to execute a basic tight turn. They're
mhm,
not doing it because of the structure of the drill. And little did you know that you'd throw in a little scrimmage game that you're encouraging them, or you set up a certain 1-on-1, 2-on-2. They're able to execute that punch turn easily in more of an athletic situation as opposed to a
100%.
repetitive situation.
Speaking of that, can we mix in, before we get to your videos, a little modern example here.
What kind of modern example are we talking?
I think he's a French player, Conner McDowell, I believe his name is.
McDavid. Again, doing these types of drills, good
What a
way
move.
to, yeah, what a move. Look at the technique on that.
What a drill that was. I can't believe he didn't pass it to his own goalie. Like, who was he looking at? I love the salesmanship on that. I guess he was looking across at the D, but my joke makes
Lot of things went into that, that's for sure. But it was very good control on the outside edge, well timed pullback, good weight transfer release, and that's a playoff goal. So
and like you
it's a
were
big
saying
one.
earlier, you can really it shows how effective the move can be in making someone look kind of silly, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, uh, obviously, kids are fired up when they see that type of stuff on Instagram. So, if you're practicing a similar move in your practice, you can get some good level of engagement. But at the same time, like we said, this skill is going to be showing up in their next shift, in their next game. You might as well be prepared for it. So, here's a couple of good progressions. What should I show first here? Should I show the young guns ripping the pure punch turn slide, or just skip to the tight turn?
You make the decision.
Yeah. Okay. So look at that one there. Struggling. Okay. Uh, Looking at this position here from the player in blue, or even the player with the black helmet in the middle, learning to contact the ice and be able to shave the ice on your outside edge is something a lot of players struggle with. So,
Sure.
doing something really basic like this, or if we see again right here by the player with the black helmet, learning to contact your outside edge and just stop on it um, is not a bad introduction to show kids how to feel the edge of their blade sliding and just being able to make a bit of a stop. And you'll definitely notice, like the player in blue there, some players will be so much more comfortable on one foot over the other. Good to isolate and try to break that down.
Yep.
Um, so another drill, again, to isolate and to really try to expose one foot from the other and see how much you can grip the ice and how quick you can slam on the brakes. In this, whoops, in this progression, you're trying to stop like right on the red line or right on the blue, have one foot come to a dead stop, the other foot come into a full turn. So acceleration, come to a stop with your outside edge, make an inside edge turn with the outside leg.
Yep. These kids are doing a great job of it.
Yeah, for sure. Bunch of good players here. And then be able to flip your ankles from one direction to the other. This would be a good drill to kind of work on some of those fakes. So you're doing kind of three outside edge contacts, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Uh, these are the type of drills. You know, these kids here are all born in 2011, I believe. Maybe a couple that are a year older. But these are the type of drills that you can take a really high level player and actually have them feel a little bit funny. And when they're overthinking it, they lose their athletic posture. Um, it's unfortunate to see when you have higher level players and you're taking them through a basic skill progression like this and they have a really hard time executing, although they can do it in their game on a regular basis.
Right.
And I think a good, like, we saw that punch turn from McDavid.
Yep.
I think somebody who's better than McDavid, Ari Zarian here. Are you kidding me? Look
What a
at that one
stud.
right there.
Let's see that again.
So we got 8-year-old punch turn, load and shift, top right, bingo. Love
Eerily
that.
similar to McDavid.
Look at that one. Beauty.
Love
So,
it.
um, again, 8 years old, but you can take some really basic punch turn exercises with an 18-year-old
Yeah.
and look at them really struggling. Um, Here's another one, 8 years old, little punch turn, slip through the legs.
Come on.
It would be unfortunate to tell a player like this who is clearly executing punch turns,
Hmm.
but you could, break everything down and make them look terrible.
What's he doing with the puck? He
Yeah,
should just be skating up to the pylon, maybe holding his hands on the boards and putting that foot out in front of him.
yeah. So not only are they capable,
Wow.
clearly capable of executing these punch turns, uh, but two, using the puck, it keeps you, like, if you're carrying the puck, your posture is in full control. If you're going to
Right.
pull this puck back to your backhand like that,
Beautiful.
you're 100% have to be in control. Where, I don't know, maybe even if we go back to,
Beautiful.
yeah, well done. Even if we go back to something like this, now, some incredible instruction telling them to move their stick as if they're carrying the puck. But sometimes you can do those steps where you're going punch, 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 but your upper body posture is not
Right.
moving with it. It's not balanced properly when you don't carry the puck.
Hmm.
So it is nice to progress, even when you see them struggling, to progress the drills with the puck and to see what they're capable of. And next thing you know, you had a kid who was actually having a really hard time because they were overthinking something, and really they're capable of executing some sick moves.
Yeah, that's a great clip.
Cal Grant, just an absolute stud here.
Love
Taking in a
that
little
backhand.
feedback, going for a nice sprint. Look at that acceleration.
I love that
Love that.
backhand cutback. Oh man, amazing.
Yeah, there's that. It's unfortunate I don't have it to show. It's an Instagram clip with McDavid. How about
What
the
a save by
cut?
Dominic Hasek. I love it. What a stud. Good for you.
Oh, that's my goalie. What a stud.
He is a stud.
Um, so there's a couple of progressions there that made up the bulk of a session, actually, to do those different line skate moves, to do some passing drills, some shooting drills that all incorporated punch turns. Again, you got a lot of reps at a fundamental that you're going to see in your next game, guaranteed. You have made a high tempo and good conditioning explosiveness, like a good workout for the kids because you've worked on so many tight turns. It's exhausting.
Hmm.
Three, you've brought it to a level where kids are pulling off some nice releases. They're making some nice dekes and passing. Wish I had more videos of the competitive drills,
Yeah,
or a video rather of the competitive drills where they are executing those punch turns and going against opponents and working on their spatial awareness. All very valuable pieces if you're going to be developing that skill.
100%. I love what you said, making them, those younger players, just the audacity that you have to get them doing a punch turn and a dangle through the legs and all of that stuff. And sometimes I'm concerned if, I wonder if these kids can handle the session I have prepared for them today, or if I'm overestimating them.
Yeah, it's that definitely comes from knowing the group really well, and I've been
Hmm.
lucky enough to log so many hours with that one particular group of 8-year-olds. It's funny because the other kids are that I was showing in these videos today 4 to 5 years older than those other kids, um,
Crazy.
but I both those sessions I ran in the same day, and I'd say with the passing and shooting drills in particular, I was pulling off, or I was having the kids pull off, kind of some sicker or fancier moves. Sicker, that's got to be a word. Um,
Yeah.
just because of the language that I have with them and the general rapport, as opposed to those older kids that I've like, it was probably one of my first or like second sessions with that group. Just met them, and I'm not just gonna kind of pull up on,
Right.
first 20 minutes into the session and start pulling the puck through my feet and doing backhand toe drags all over the place. I'll just kind of keep it simple, skate at a high tempo, and try to execute the move at full speed, which
Save it
is
for another pod, brother.
there you go.
The rapport. What a comment. You definitely need to have a good relationship with kids to get the most out of them.
For sure. No, it hockey development's personal when it comes down to it, and once you get into session number 10, 20, 50, 100, um, you are not just going to be doing the same old. Yes, you're still practicing fundamentals, but you're going to add a new flavor.
100%.
Yeah, clip it. Um, so conclusion. Conclusion here. Did we miss anything? I'm just checking the game notes here. Punch turns, clearly a scam.
Gotta be a scam.
You're going to figure it out. It's just a tight turn.
Yep.
Is that a good conclusion for that?
It's a pretty good conclusion. But like you said, I wonder if Mario was ripping punch, turn, pull through the legs at the age of 8 years old. That's an incredible clip you have there.
Mario, how many times I gotta tell you, you gotta move the stick? Punch, punch.
Not enough. Keep him move. Hey, Coach Spencer, tell him to keep his feet moving.
Keep the feet moving out there.
I love it.
Okay, that's not a bad conclusion. At the same time, um, we are going to continue to be scam artists. Is that how we should wrap this up?
That is the key is we are openly confessing to our new career, this career that didn't exist in the days of Mario, but we will unapologetically continue to teach kids things they'll probably figure out anyways in the future.
It's a good way of putting it. It's
Yeah.
a very good way of putting it. But we're going to guide them in the right direction.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure they smile when they go to and leave the rink. That's not a
Yes.
that's sometimes can be lost in translation.
Sure.
Um,
It's a new generation. That's really important, I think.
and it's going to be one hell of a workout when you're working at our tempo.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Well, uh, punch turns. There you go. Half hour of punch turns. What's a bigger scam? Talking about this for a half hour or doing a full hour and a half session of punch turns? Couldn't tell you.
I could not tell you, but I'll just leave you with this guy I've never heard of pulling this move off and wondering if we should be teaching that.
Question comment of the day: what is a skill that is, instead of a big scam? What's a skill that is completely overlooked and an underrated skill? I'm gonna go with um, chipping and putting.
100%. You know what? In the lure, look that word up. In the lure of marketing these days,
Product
new
price place promotion. Am I right?
Bauer Hyperlight,
Six.
it'll give you an extra 6 yards off the tee and 3 yards straighter, guaranteed. Only cost you half of this month's rent. You know what I mean? Um, it's all about distance. Everything's all about distance. Who's on the putting green?
Who's in front of the net doing their Joe Pavelski routine? You got to think Tiger. How many putts is he draining before a tournament?
I don't know, 50 within 10 feet at the Masters in 2019. That was a stat. 50 for
Yeah, and he
50.
probably hit 500 the day of each day.
Yeah.
Joe Pavelski prepping for the conference finals. How many how many chips and putts is that guy ripping at pregame skate to get ready for the show?
I would love to get access to a pregame Dallas Stars skate and just see Joey P doing his little Captain America dodging bullets in front of the net. And I would love to see that. I think I don't think he's working on toe drags pregame.
A little, little glide and hands.
Little Zorro, Michigan when he gets on the ice, and then back in front of the net.
Yeah, I know. I wonder how many Michigans he's doing. Um, okay, love that. Can't wait to see all the comments that are going to be streaming in about what they think are underrated skills. Viewership has just been going to the moon. Subscribers
To the
coming
moon.
along. If you've come to the 31-minute mark and you haven't hit subscribe and you haven't smashed the like button, we are calling the cops. We
That's
will
correct.
call the cops on you. We have access to who's watching this. So you make sure
You
you support the channel.
do what's right for you and for your family.
Do the right thing. Morning.
Morning.